Josh, it's so good to see you again.
Good to be here. Good to be seen.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Not a lot, not everybody gets the luxury of being seen. So
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. That's why we're here. It's our, fifth time sitting down now? Five out of
yeah,
seven? Okay.
yes, it's crazy
Yeah, it flies by. It flies by.
that it does. Yeah, for sure.
Amazing. Well, hey, before we start, anything you need to do? Coffee, water, notifications, note taking?
Not DND is engaged. Caffeine is at hand, and I am looking as fine as this old ugly mug can ever look. So I'm ready to go.
You look great. Let's dive in, wherever you want to start.
I made the connection quite quickly that this internal dialogue has a lot of business implications to it, and how I can talk myself in or out of a good idea, a bad idea, even the daily motivations of doing the rote mundane tasks of a business, right? Because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes you just have to do stuff.
I remember last week it was so much about like what do we do, right, with this voice that is louder, the extroverted voice in your mind that's, we started saying evil but extroverted. And what I'm hearing is like, how do we apply the practical business lens on top of this so that we can figure out how to deal with it when the voices are specifically about business decisions. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm curious, Josh, like if given everything that's helped in the past week with these voices overall, what feels like the blocker to you on the business decision side of this equation?
There's a partial block of my inexperience of running a business, right? So there's, I think, both the introverted and extroverted side of the equation has a lack of experience. So neither one really knows what exactly is the best way to move forward. They both have both sides of the story, both sides of the argument, both sides of the equation, have really good, valid ideas or really good, valid theories. But since neither one of them had the experience, both of them are kind of like, well, let's test this theory out. Let's test this theory out. Let's do this. Let's try this. And then the wheels begin to spin because there's no traction.
Okay. So I've heard you say inexperience a few times.
Mm-hmm.
What experience do you have?
I have a lot of experience in implementing the vision of other people into reality. So I've often said about myself that I'm really, really, really good at being like an interpreter, where I can take other people's visions and bring it to life, whether through video or through, I've got a marketing background and all of that stuff, right? So really, really good at, okay, I hear what you're saying. These are the things that we need to do to make this reality. I am not very good at doing that for myself. Like that's, if it's an external source that I hear, I can listen, I can analyze, I can tear it apart, rip it apart, build it, all that stuff. I have done it everywhere that I have been. When it comes to being the author of that and then being the self-interpreter of that, not so good. And straight into the wheel spinning time and time and time and time again. In order to get the business to the next level, I'm going to have to begin to not add in new product lines, but begin to expand what I do. And that's where the conflict comes back in.
Specifically when we think about expanding to next level?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're thinking about like your BAU, like the stuff that you're doing right now, the scope that you have, the functions that you have, the offerings that you have, how loud is this conflict in your mind with when it's just about the stuff that you are working on that you're used to?
So when it comes to things that I already know that I can do and I can do well, the chatter's real low. Always there, always present. I don't think any business owner ever never has that chatter in the background, because we're always like, let's, how are we going to do? What are we going to do next? How do we improve? So on and so forth. Specific example, right? I know that I've done everything so far with a lot of it's all been word of mouth and referrals. My clients are really awesome at giving me pointers and recommending me. So everything that I've had has been through word of mouth and through existing relationships. That's great. I would like to be a little bit more intentional with sales, and I'd like to be a little bit more intentional with creating systems around generating leads and those things. Stuff that I really don't know a whole lot about. And so that would be like a very specific example of, something new, something related that's expanding, that's out of my comfort zone, because it's, something I don't know a whole lot about.
So, Josh, in a moment, I almost want to do a bit of a reset intentionally, because we kind of landed on like a thing 15 minutes in. We have 40 more minutes, but I almost want to do a bit of a reset and have you almost like pretend that you're coming back in now with this realization and saying, Tarik, like, this is the thing that we want to do today, and like, here's what I think we need to do. I'm going to give you that chance in a sec, okay?
Yeah.
Before we do that, you started touching on like the system that you wanted to build, and I heard you say sales and lead gen, and I just wanted to flush this out for a sec. Like, give me the system that feels scary that you are hoping to get to one day.
The sales, the lead gen, and that process over and over again, which I keep banging my head up against. I don't know what it would look like for me, because I can tell you I've seen a lot of sales and marketing and stuff that would absolutely violate my sales system, and I know I don't want to do that. That's, and maybe potentially that dissonance between those two things are what causing a lot of the wheel spinning, because I can tell you a lot of things that when I encounter it, it does not make me feel good. But those are the examples that I have in order to try to build something that's there. And I don't know enough about the pieces to say, this piece makes me feel icky, but this piece feels good. There may be more pieces, but I've only been able to identify those two things to this point.
Okay. Sounds good. So if we were to reset and we had just started the session right now, and I was like, hey, Josh, what feels like the best use of time for you in the amazing 30, 35, 40 minutes we have today?
I'd like to leave here heading in the direction of being able to build a sales and lead gen strategy that doesn't violate my values. Actually, that not even doesn't violate my values, but embodies the values that I've put forth both personally and for my business, and that will lead to a next phase of profitability and growth for my company.
So then, for sales and lead gen, in a way that embodies your values, let's tackle it. Let's get
Do
there.
it. Yeah.
Tell me about the values.
It is my job to leave everything that I touch better than I found it. If I can't be of real help to someone, if there's someone better for the job, or if there's someone that has a better skill set or whatever, if I am not that, then it is my responsibility to walk away, because someone who's paying me deserves 100% of the worth of the money that they're paying. And if I can't give them that and someone else can, you should give them their money. That's the way that I believe. And then also too, I really, truly, honestly believe that the golden rule isn't about getting more gold. People will be like, do unto others as they'd have them do unto you. And they focus on that as kind of this quid pro quo thing of, I'm going to do what's best because then I get what's best back. That's not the point. The point is to treat others the way that they deserve to be treated as as valuable human beings, as valuable business owners, as valuable customers trying to do things. And if you do that, then the whole world begins to unlock, right? Which in, unfortunately, so many sales situations, it's just close the deal, just take their money, and if you have to, screw them over in the end and whatever. I can't do that. That's I guess there's a lot of the pieces that I do believe in, and the values that I want to be embodied in my sales and lead gen process. There's not like a lot of examples of that to just emulate, or maybe they're out there and I don't know where they are. I don't know where to look. I've not been, I've not been privy to them.
Now, can we play with this for a sec?
Please.
So examples would potentially give you hope. But there's a feeling, right, of, if I'm hearing you right, that you're not sure if what you would hope to build is even possible or doable. Can we hypothetical for a sec?
Please.
If it was possible, if I gave you a guarantee, like I'm back from the future 5 years from now, and I'm like, Josh, I seen it. It's possible. It's being done. You are doing it. It's aligned to your values. It's possible. If you knew that it was possible, what would you build?
It seems like such a fundamental question, but it is so outside of the realm of the possibility that my brain can wrap around that I don't know how to answer that, which is such a rare thing for me, because I can usually piece together something. I think that the number one result that I want is for the majority of the customers to say that the value they received from the product delivered was much more than the money that they paid for it. Like, I want the value that they get out of the assets that we create and deliver absolutely justifies the price. One of the perfect testimonies would be like that phrase. And that I know is a lot tied to a lot of other pieces of it. But I'd like to be able to find, like, the whole idea of the sales and lead gen is, how do I find those types of customers?
Look, Josh, you said this has been a block kind of for 18 months, right? Mm-hmm. And so we likely won't solve it with one question, one answer. But maybe we'll just we're gonna depressurize this for a sec. All right? Yeah. We'll take the baby steps to circle around it and chip away at it and see kind of what we land on. There's a couple things coming out right now. Outcomes of good relationships, with the majority of customers saying that the value they got far exceeded the money they paid, and they are making a ton of money because of the work that you've done for them, right? Mm-hmm. They're also aligned. They see the world the way you see it, right? Like, they're aligned with your values too.
The people that I work with and work with well are the folks that it's on their list. It's the work that something needs to be done first. Something in, like, their work is something that this world needs to have. And then the money is a secondary thing to it. I kind of run like that. Like, my work is to serve other people. That's the primary thing. And okay, but now we've got to bring the money part into it. And because all this stuff costs, and living has a cost fixed to it, I think the folks, the organizations, I'm not going to say folks because a lot of times it's organizational issues. Organizations that I don't jive real well with is when that is flipped. It's like money first and everything else second. And it seems, for whatever reason, it seems easier to find the money first people than it does the mission first people. And I haven't been able to figure out why.
If we parse out the sales and lead process for a sec, I heard you say, like, how do I find more of these people, right? If I gave you 20 companies right now that were work first, money second, what would you do with those 20 leads, with each of them, in a way that's aligned with your values to move that forward?
I tell you what I love to do is I would love to find a way to get down and just listen to them talk about the work, so I can get to know them and understand why they love the work. Because if I can understand why they love the work, then I can help them tell their story. It's certainly, I guess, a long play, but I would just find a way to develop any type of relationship I can have with that list of 20, and find a way to get it as deep and sincere as possible, and then offer help. The nuts and bolts of how to do that is probably the part of the system that I don't know quite how to I don't know how to systematize it, because that's just like meeting and talking with people and taking, I don't know, a genuine interest in what they do. It seems to be like the best way for me to operate is to really just get to know somebody, get to know what they do, and help them tell a story. I don't know how to systematize it. I can tell you what I would do if I'd have the list, but I don't know how to create a list, and I'm not exactly sure how I would begin those conversations, but I know that would be the goal for me.
Uh-huh. And I'm parsing this out because we seem now to be circling, like we started with like, how do we apply last week's thinking to business situations, right? Mm-hmm. Then we got to how do we apply this to expanding out of comfort zone. Then we isolated it to how do we get sales and lead gen. Now we've attached values on top of that. And now even between sales and lead gen, what I'm hearing is like, okay, we don't know how to systematize it yet, but there's some idea of like what you would do if you had the list of 20 people and how you would love to operate and move those forward. And this question of like, well, how do I find these companies? Lead gen seems to be one of the key questions now. It seems like when you have the 20, you know what you would want to do, but it's like, how do we find the 20?
Yeah. That's probably the truth. Yeah.
In general, in life, whether it's finding a friend or finding a partner or finding someone to go to the gym with or finding someone to whatever, what is in our control that we can do to maximize the chances that the people we bump into and speak with are aligned to the people that we want to be with?
Right. Okay. So now we finally get to revisit the one piece of the triangle that we haven't visited yet. And that's the pressures of running a business. Because the way that this scenario played out between us is such a long sales cycle. It's such a long sales cycle. And when your sales cycles are so long, things get real quick. And that's to me where it's like, well, I need to have a little bit more predictability. I need to have a little, like, because it, not that creating content and sharing your values is easy. It's not an easy thing to do it consistently and to do it well, and certainly to do it to the standard that I have for that. There's a lot of work involved in it, but doing that for me, it has to evolve past that where I'm actually being able to shorten that sales cycle. While I hear that, I hear what you're saying, that's part of it. The realities of business put a lot of pressure on you speeding up that sales cycle. And I think maybe a lot of that turns into that discussion of, well, am I going to have to violate something that I don't want to violate values wise in order to just get a couple of dollars in? And I know that that is absolutely a scenario that every single person who's ever run, started, or grown a business has gone through multiple times.
What about that shorter term push for revenue? Which part of that feels like it's violating the values?
What I do is, at my core, what I do best, not just what I do best is to believe in people the way that I wish they believed in themselves and the rest of the world would believe in them too. And to bring those stories to life and to help them accomplish their goals. That's why I love working with startups, because there's a purity in them, because they believe in a mission and that something needs to be brought forth. I love working with coaches. I love working with mom and pops on Main Street. I love doing those things because I believe in those people. So what violates my values of just going after the money grab is if I feel like I'm going after the money grab just by working with everyone else going after the money grab, then the net benefit to society at large, it isn't there. So I know the money needs to come there and do all that stuff, which is why it's so important for me to build a sales system. But I'm super afraid that I'm going to have to make that compromise to sell a piece of my soul in order to help all the people that really deserve the help. That's the hang up. That's the biggest hang up, because I feel if I do that, then I've somehow let down the people that need the help. I've somehow let myself down, and I can't look myself in the mirror, and I somehow haven't set a good example for the way that we should live to, my daughter and stuff, right? So those are like the big emotional blocks. Like with me, man, it's not nuts and bolts that keep me from doing things. It's these internal conflicts of morality. I don't know if that's the right word or not, maybe, that keep me from putting nuts and bolts in place. And when I say to you, I can't see it, I can't see what this system would look like. It's not that I can't see the nuts and bolts of it. I can't see the morality side of it, of what it could look like. And
if we found a way to do those things in a way that didn't feel icky, I'm just curious if that has any impact on your drive to do those things. I'm wondering if there's ever been like a restraint to like do the outreach or do XYZ or go to XYZ events if we've associated it with ickiness.
Sure. Of course. Yeah.
So I am wondering like if we found like that way to feel like sales itself isn't icky, What's keeping us from finding 100 startups that we think have good missions and calling them up and telling them kind of who you are in your words and your values? And it's not pitching them, it's not trying to get them to buy something, but saying, hey, I calling you because I saw what your mission is about, and like my mission, like I do this for people, and like, yo, it's not a sales pitch, but like I just freaking love helping people, and your mission stood out to me because of XYZ reasons. Is there anything stopping us from getting creative with get that type of outreach in a way that's aligned to your values?
When you said that, both sides instantly were like, great idea. Oh, really? So I'm going to have that dialogue. I'm going to have to figure out what that oh, really is really about.
And given last week's how you've landed on like how to deal with like the two voices, like what do you think you can do to kind of explore that or really feeling?
Like kind of crafting it like a dialogue in a movie scene was it seemed a little corny at first, but it was effectively kind of fun. You put like a little scene around it, and you set the stage, and you know do all your little director's notes and all that stuff. It was something. It was cool.
And before we wrap, give me your key insights from today.
Sales success for me is going to be finding people, products, and a system that doesn't violate my values. Not that my values are the be all and end all that everyone should aspire to, but because if I begin to violate my values, then destructive patterns reemerge in my life, and it's not good for anybody. Relationships are so important to this whole process for me. I don't believe I could run just a transactional type business. Yeah, I think those are the biggest takeaways. I'm sure as I watch these back, I will be like, "Oh, that's a good one too. That's a good one too." But off the lid, those are what jump out.